Well, everybody, we are live. We are here. It is FSP, and we have lots to discuss. If you've been catching any of my other streams, appreciate you as well. You guys rock. Whole community rocks. Appreciate all of you for all the support and everything. Just watching any of the content. If you hit the like button, share it out, notification bell, sub, all that kind of stuff. It's absolutely amazing. And also, huge shout out to Lotus Esprit with gifting those 5 fun speculation memberships to get us rolling on this show. This is not a doom and gloom show. I mean, this is still tough stuff to talk about. You know what I mean? But like, I want to look at like what's on the other side. I want to look at what's on the other side of this reset. What is this? All these changes and stuff. What are they going to lead us to? What is Xbox going to look like? You know, what is the new Xbox going to look like under the revision, the change, all this stuff that's taken place? And I don't know if enough focus has been put on that yet. I think, you know, a lot of this has been a lot of, you know, feeling bad, obviously, or you know, we gotta send a shout outs to all the devs and everybody that may be affected coming up here in these layoffs or potential closures or splitting off, becoming independent, or whatever the situations are that's going to be happening here. I think that a lot of attention has been paid to that stuff, of course, right? But there's more at play here. It's involving the Xbox brand, the platform, the ecosystem. We called it last week when, you know, if you caught my stream about the whole industry and with the games media and all this stuff is against them. You know, it became even more clear with people actually just coming out of the closet and saying they think Xbox should stop making hardware. As in some way that would be good for the industry, be good for gamers, be good for developers, be good for less layoffs somehow. I don't know. That doesn't make any damn sense whatsoever. But we're in this situation now where we're looking at the realities of what they are doing, and I want to talk about what that will be. And I think Asha has laid out a lot of clues for us in that same Xbox Wire reset post that I've referenced many times. So we're going to have some fun talking about this in the very fun speculation way, because that's what we do here. And to do that with me is the one and only, always smooth, Fuzzy Belvedere. What's up, Fuzz? How's it going, man?
Oh, eh, everything is going.
Yeah.
No, no, it's great to be here with you, man. I've tried to stay off social media as far as like the doom and gloom stuff because we still got games coming. Still playing Forza a lot, so there's always that to keep me occupied. But yeah, it's the industry as a whole. We've heard off and on that volatility is going to be one of those things throughout these coming years, regardless of what platform. And while Xbox might have their first, go at it, these next couple of weeks, there's more than likely going to be, some other platforms doing something similar. So
Mm-hmm.
we'll see how it works. Hopefully, instead of closures, there's spinoffs. But I think in the grand scheme of things, this is kind of the stuff that Xbox has kind of needed to do for a while to kind of get back into the groove of things. Um, we'll see what's left standing afterwards, and I'm pretty sure there'll be a strong foundation for them to build upon from there. The next tackling thing that they're going to have to focus on is hardware, but luckily, we all have hardware, or most of us have hardware. Especially if you're listening to the podcast, you have the Series X or S somewhere, or a PC that can play the game. So I think the biggest thing now is play the games, enjoy them, purchase the ones you want to purchase, subscribe to the, subscription service you want to subscribe to. But other than that, there's a lot of games, and even GTA finally showed cover art and a pre-order window. So yeah, there's that. So I guess a lot of other devs can breathe a sigh of relief the month of November and just move their game elsewhere, kind of thing. So
Yeah. I mean, a lot. I mean, there's a lot of people looking at everything, being like, "What does this mean for me?" You know what I mean? And you know, it's ultimately, I think that there's a lot of people out there that are always jump to conclusions, always jump to the extreme, right? We've seen numerous brands in gaming have massive changes within their structure, within their pipeline of the kinds of content that they want to make, with the kinds of devices that they're making. And we've seen the big players that have been around for the last 25 plus years now still here and ticking. For example, Nintendo. They had the failure of the GameCube as far as sales wise. They had the enormous success of the Wii. Completely changed their company. Everybody was like, oh my God, this is like insane, right? Meanwhile, all along this time, they were super strong in handheld. The whole DS era, before that was the Game Boy Advance, and you had the DS era, right, with all the DSs everywhere. You had a failed device with the Virtual Boy along the way early on as well. And you had the Wii, just took the world by storm after the GameCube kind of did. It was all right. I mean, a lot of us liked it or loved the GameCube, but as far as like success for them, it was not a massive thing. Wii takes on, like, goes just crazy. Wii U, complete astronomical flop, right? Complete disaster for them as a company, as far as marketing wise, as far as launch, as far as getting games out in a frequent cadence for the gamers. And guess what? They massively changed course. They went as a primary handheld model with also being able to have that option available for console gamers, where now you have a handheld so you're bringing all that handheld audience with you. The DS era moves on to the Switch, right? And now, hey, we got this, and we're gonna make it available as a attractive device for many console gamers as well. Nintendo became a one device ecosystem where they always had been two. They always had their handheld games and they had their console games, right? I've always kind of limited that because it put them in a handicap as far as what they're able to do as far as games, you know. Fortunately, with the Switch 2, they're able to advance that further than what they were with the first Switch. But it's still different Nintendo, right? People say this is all they've ever been. Well, if you've been a Nintendo handheld gamer, this is what they've always been, right? PlayStation 1, you know, hey, amazing. PlayStation 2, great. You know, PlayStation 3 came out. They tried to do something different, right? They had a $700 device at launch. Tried to do this unique architecture that was kind of hard to develop for. They had different. They're trying to attack first-person shooters finally, but then they kind of like fail in that in a lot of regards. Finally, at the end of the PS3 generation, the whole new era of PlayStation started with the whole cinematic style games. Right, you start having the, you know, Uncharted's, you know, and that's kind of what kicked that off. I think Uncharted set the tone and the direction for the new PlayStation, right? Then you got The Last of Us, you know, you got Ghost of Tsushima, you know, Horizon, you know, all these kind of things. Then again, that wasn't working enough for PlayStation this generation. They were like, hey, we're not going to be making enough money. We're not growing enough. So we're going to do games of service. All of our studios stopped doing that. We're all of a sudden going to do games of service now, right? They did that. Didn't work. They realized they didn't know what they're doing. Tons of layoffs and closures across studios that they acquired. More closures of studios than any other platform holder by far this generation. If all of these studios that are rumored for Xbox to close actually do close, you know, they'll be closer to even. Massive reset, restructure, changes of leadership going on at PlayStation, right? The one thing that they've had going for them is they've been still steady with hardware sales. Going to PC, now not going to PC. Going to PC, now not going to PC. Now it's like, there may be an occasional. They're not completely shutting the door according to the new CEO, but like it's not. I mean, it's mostly single player games are going to be on PlayStation only, and then multiplayer games would be everywhere, or on PC at least. Then you have Xbox, right? Xbox, probably more changes in structure than any of them. I mean, you had the original Xbox era, you had the 360, it went bonkers. They actually brought real massive competition to the hardware space. Xbox One floundered 2016. Xbox starts to resurrect by 2018 to 2020, 2021. They have real momentum again. 2022 happens, lose the momentum. Hey, it's all right. They're going to reinvest and acquire publishers and start doing all that. Here we are now in this situation after the multi-platform decisions of the last 2 years, and Game Pass price increases and all these other kind of things. And now we're here for another change at Xbox. Been through this many times with these three companies. And the way it's painted with Xbox from the media generally is always way worse than it's painted at the other companies, right? When they're having trouble, or when they have restructuring, or when they change models, all this other kind of things. But I think there is a future in which we're looking ahead, and the curious thing that I have is, what does the new Xbox look like? And it's not a matter of it not being there. It's a matter of it existing, and what are they going to deliver? What is the new mindset? What is the new attitude? With new leadership brings changes. So lots to speculate on that shit. Shout out to Razor Ultron with the $2 super chat. Appreciate you. Fuzzy, I still can't find where I can super chat you. Fuzzy has a channel. You're on mute, bro. Yeah, it doesn't show you muted, but your light's not blooming, and I don't see any icons or anything. I no. It's probably some kind of source thing messed up on the input. Nope. This is I think some PlayStation fanboy is attacking Fuzzy's PC right now, not wanting him to share his thoughts. And somebody out there doesn't want Fuzzy to get any super chats.
There we go.
There you go, bro.
No, my channel isn't partnered. And apparently when I touched my mic, it shocked it and switched it from the Yeti to the standard speaker. So
electric, man.
Yeah. Shocking.
We got to get your. So here we need a few. You need to make a few videos, Fuzz. Like make some like shit talking videos or something like that. And we'll clip them, make them go viral. You know. So we can get you partnered with YouTube.
Yeah. I should do a video on that whole Target thing. I saw it before where they were charging $80 for Outer Worlds 2. I'm like, oh, it must be an outdated thing. They probably changed the price or corrected it. Nope. Target's always been like, hey, they said 80, so we're charging 80, even though they eventually said that they were charging 70. But Target was like, nope, we're not updating it. So yeah, I should probably do a video on that.
Yeah, I saw your post. It is very strange because it's like they just stuck with the original price that Xbox retracted, you know? And is that like a Target decision purposefully, or is it just like, oops, they forgot to change it? You know?
They'll probably blame it on Xbox. They didn't tell us that they changed the price.
Yeah. You remember like right after, this is too interesting too. You remember it was like late last year at some point, there was all these retailers like going after Xbox, like they're like, we're stopping carrying their products and stuff like that. That was kind of weird too. I wonder like what happened at that point. You know what I mean? It seemed like there was something that went down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like on retail partner wise with Xbox that force some of them to be like pull stuff from the sites and things like that. And it was around the same time as the Game Pass price increase, I think. Um, and some people were like, "Hey, they're no longer having Xboxes in certain stores and stuff like that." And it was really interesting and weird. It was, and I wonder if like the fallout of all of that stuff pertained to kind of what happened earlier this year with Asha taking over. Like there was something I think last year, like at around that time when Xbox started really doing some of those things, and um, you had this massive fallout from a lot of different entities as far as like storefronts and all these other kind of things. It's like it makes you think like maybe it makes a little bit more sense, you know, looking back at some of that going on because you don't want to have a bad relationship with your retail partners. You know what I mean?
Uh,
But you had some of them out there outright mocking Xbox like on social media and stuff, and so that was really
yeah.
strange. So that's something I think Asha's got to work on too, right? Is just establishing that relationship again with some of those partners for sure. And Target's one of them, Fuzz.
Yeah.
Like they should be selling Outer
Like I
Worlds 2 for $79.99. It's crazy.
no, I think they gotta do something about getting hardware back into production. Like, it seems like that was the biggest misstep, I guess, before the pricing increase on memory and SSDs, so they're behind a, or they're fighting a battle uphill kinda thing with the hardware, but hopefully they get it figured out here pretty quick, and possibly a solution that, will change gaming forever, where it's like your SSD or your memory is in the cloud, so that way you have like a mini Series X, and you could probably pick it up for 2 or 300 bucks, and you'll have to subscribe to like Game Pass or something like that to have your games in the cloud or something. So
Yeah.
we'll see how it works.
Yeah, somebody's got to be working on some interesting tech with the memory and storage stuff going on right now. Like, I am excited because on what the 25th, I think so, a week from next Friday or next Thursday, I get fiber.
Nice.
It's supposed to be I'm supposed to be getting fiber that day. It finally they put it in our neighborhood. Way too late. So as soon as I got the news that like, hey, it's available now to order, I did it instantly. So
Mhm.
it's gonna be interesting to see how that affects my internet connection and stuff like that. And I will be more prepared if there is cloud memory thing going on with somebody working in on what you're saying, Fuzz. Well, man, I wanted to read this earlier from Shane G. Earlier, I saw this. It says, "Sup, guys? The media is going so hard at Xbox. I'm not an exclusive guy. I don't think it will sell consoles, especially how easy Xbox games are to play on PC and cloud. But now I want more exclusives. LOL." Like, bro, like I said this during the stream yesterday. I don't know if you had a chance to catch it. And you guys know how I feel about exclusives. Like it's still like me as a consumer doesn't affect me any either way because like I'm in the Xbox ecosystem. I get to play my games on Xbox and PC. I think Play Anywhere is amazing. I love Game Pass, all these other kind of things, right? Um, and I thought people jumping ship and getting just mad at Xbox and selling their Xboxes were crazy because these are a lot of the same people that had been saying that PlayStation was such shit for so long. And they were
Mhm.
all of a sudden going to go buy the Xbox games, all the games that were coming out for more money than they were going to get to play them on the same place they already were. And also abandoning your libraries and stuff. I think that was just like craziness, right? Um, but at the same time, my stance on like I don't care about exclusivity either way. It does mean I don't care if they take games off of PlayStation. I don't want them to take games off of PC. You know, because I think that's a important part of the ecosystem, and also like it's cool being able to get games on PC and on console, being able to take advantage of all the bells and whistles that PC has to offer, right? But my mentality after seeing Greg Miller's stupid ass thing saying that he wants Xbox hardware to die and just for everybody to get the Xbox games everywhere. Um, that really pissed me off and rubbed me the wrong way because it's like none of these people out there, and the amount of people that have been coming into my chats and in my streams and saying random shit on Twitter, it's clear they've come out of the closet that they don't actually care about Xbox at all. They don't care about the Xbox gamers. They don't care about the Xbox fan base. They don't care about the 30 million console owners that exist now, or of Series X's and S's, plus also however many more millions of Xbox One owners there are. They don't care about all the Xbox PC app users, the Game Pass subscribers, all these other kind of things. All they care about, the only thing they care about, is getting games like Gears of E-Day on their PlayStation. Damned all of us, right? Fuck all of us. We don't deserve hardware. Nothing. None of that matters. Fuck all of us is what they say. I say fuck you, right? My mentality has shifted now because of your entitlement and spoiled bitch assness that I no longer want you to receive any Xbox games. Fuck you. You don't deserve them. You're a bitch. You don't deserve to play Gears on your PlayStation. Fuck you. If you're out here talking shit, saying Xbox needs to get out of the hardware space so that way they just focus all on multiplats or whatever, so these studios can all make cool art for me on your PlayStation, yeah, bro. You don't deserve that shit. I hope they make every game exclusive. I hope Elder Scrolls 6 is exclusive. So you're forced to hold an Xbox controller and boot up the Xbox and cringe while you're doing it. I hope it pains you. I hope it does. Anyway. Yeah, it's like, dude, like, just screw them, man. Screw them. There's a double standard around the industry. It's so crazy. Again, the news today was going around about PlayStation and PC, and there's no, like, outcry from the games media about the sales of some of those games not being enough, potentially, and what's happening to those studios and things like that. Even though they've had more studio closures than anybody else this entire generation, there's no outcry from the media about that whatsoever. They're applauding it, saying, "Hey, what? This is great for them putting their focus. It makes a lot of sense." Xbox makes Gears and Clockwork Revolution exclusive. They should kill hardware. Fuck you. Well, Fuzz, let's get into some fun speculation about the future of Xbox, man.
Yeah.
What does it hold? Now, I think, we've done a pretty good job speculating here so far from Asha's Xbox Wire Reset post, Fuzzy. Last Thursday, after it dropped, we had our show. We talked about it. We speculated about studios like Double Fine and Compulsion being possibly in trouble, hoping that also there was the best case scenario would be if they are in trouble, them end up having a way of becoming independent, and hopefully Xbox would be trying to facilitate that. It looks like that's the case, that's what's being attempted right now. We don't know what's going to be the end result by any means, but we kind of nailed that last week. And again, the writing was on the wall based on the Xbox Wire Reset post. It gives us a layout of where their mindset is. It gives us a layout of how they're thinking, right? Of what this new vision is. So anytime I'm looking about possible speculation about where they're going to do, what they're going to do, or what the new Xbox looks like, I refer to that. This is going to affect hardware. It's going to affect game development. It's going to affect the pipeline. It's going to affect the kinds of games that they're going to be making. And it might also affect third-party relationships and deals as well. Because there's some interesting nuggets there in that Xbox Wire Reset post. I want to read you something, Fuzzy. this was the most important one again about, I think, the strategy of content delivery. We talked about this a little bit yesterday. This was number 4 on Asha's basically reset post. We expanded our studio system when we needed a pipeline of content to meet multiple strategies across subscription, streaming, and devices. In the process, we found ourselves overextended as we executed on changing strategies in a landscape of more readily available content. We are the fortunate stewards of industry-defining franchises that have enormous potential and player demand, but we have not adequately funded them to compete and win. Now, that's what led to our speculation about Double Fine and Compulsion in those studios, thinking that they were going to be putting more resources into big franchises, right? Because that's pretty much what she said. At the same time, this is very interesting. This is what I want to kind of get into here. As we saw this past weekend at Showcase, a reliable pipeline of first and third party exclusives and new IP are critical to our success. We need to reassess the balance between these and our investment priorities for the next 5 years. Now, I know some of you may not like this. Serve, especially because I remember some of your comments yesterday and I've seen some of them today in the chat. But shout out to you. Appreciate your thoughts always. And some of us aren't going to like some of the things that they do, right? Because when there's change, it's not always going to please everybody. But this is very important. Xbox, I think, is going to become more so this big franchise studio. This big franchise output machine, right? Right after that blog post last week, Fuzzy, remember it was like the next day or something? There was all these news media outlet sources being like, Xbox is fast tracking development on Elder Scrolls, Fallout, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? And the reallocation of resources, rebalancing, it looks like that. How do you think they're going to achieve that exactly? That's a tough question.
Yeah.
These games take forever to make, right?
There's a couple of approaches they could take. And one of the things that we kind of joked about in the background for a couple of years now was getting the band back together kind of thing. And what I mean by that is Obsidian, inXile, their roots have always been, not even 2 steps away from Fallout. So if Todd's crew can't work on Fallout right now, have those guys work on Fallout. Now, inXile and off the table while they finish up Clockwork Revolution. But I would assume that there's a small team that's, gearing up for their next project. If their next project happens to be a remaster of Fallout 1 and 2, because those were the main guys that worked. Well, not everybody that's on the studio, but that was the main studio that worked on the original Fallout 1 and 2. It would kind of make sense that that would be their next project to spin up. Or have them work with Obsidian and take those like that 3D or that 2D perspective kind of thing and turn it into like a third person perspective Fallout or the original Fallout 1 and 2, if that's even a possibility. Or have them work on a totally different Fallout, whether it's something that lines up with the TV series or something like a New Vegas 2 without it necessarily being a direct sequel would make the most sense. Or even better, which I think this is probably what's going to wind up happening, it'll wind up being Fallout 5. No, Todd wants to have his hand on the curation of the story and everything like that. But if he's going to focus on Elder Scrolls, and that might take another year or two before that's complete, then somebody's got to get started on Fallout 5, even if it's just the base layout, and then have him check in on the story or have him give his input on the story. But something needs to get moving. And the other alternative would be to, grow the team that's over at Bethesda. Although, from what we're hearing about, possible layoffs and cutbacks and things like that, I mean, I always thought it would make the most sense for Bethesda to have a dedicated Starfield team, a dedicated Elder Scrolls team, and a dedicated Fallout team. Now, maybe it's all hands on deck, whatever title is, the next one to be churned out. Everybody, helps with getting that across the line while the remaining parts of those teams work on like additional content. So like Starfield's DLC stuff, there's still a team working on that. But the brunt of the people that worked on Starfield will be now working on Elder Scrolls, and the same thing for Fallout. But from my understanding, that team is the same team all across those titles. So it's they got to figure out some sort of way to either grow, expand, or use other studios. And I honestly think instead of closing those studios, if you really are going to ramp up things for Fallout and Elder Scrolls, reach out to those teams. And, well, not reach out because you technically own those teams, but it's like, hey, to avoid closure, to avoid layoffs, I need all hands on deck for XYZ title. At the moment, you guys are going to be support for these titles. After support, then it'll go back to pitch form where you pitch your next project kind of thing. But in the meantime, you need to get a Fallout 5 out the door in 2028 or 2030 at the latest kind of thing. We need to get Elder Scrolls out the door by the end of 2027. Anybody that can work with environmental, some of the scenery stuff or some of the dialogue stuff that needs to be wrapped up, all hands on deck. You'll get your normal rate, plus whatever overtime for crunch and so forth. But I think that's how they do it before letting people go. And I know it's not necessarily always realistic because a place like Ninja Theory is in the UK and Bethesda's right in my backyard in Maryland. So having it where telecommunication and team meetings and stuff like that, or using Teams or Zoom may not always be the most ideal, but I think they've found ways to overcome that or work through that through 2022 and 2023. So it shouldn't be that hard of a deal to get other studios up to speed to assist in getting these other titles out the door.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of good thoughts on that. I do think it's a balance. I think it's a reallocation of resources. I think that they are focusing on things that are going to make the business stronger. I don't think they're interested in funding the small projects that are kind of like, hey, these are just to fill in like Game Pass and have like kind of these like artsy like potential award winning things that are for small groups of people. You know what I mean? I think that they're kind of past looking at those as major investments. Now, I do think they still make investments in smaller games that they think have big potential to become something, right? Um, but I don't think they're in the market to like play the whole like this is great for gaming, this is great for game, you know what I mean, art thing anymore. I think it's more so about like we're looking out for what's best for Xbox and to deliver awesome, great, big experiences for these franchises um and the fans. And I think that's kind of the new mentality. I think it goes along with the new competitive aggressive edge that they have. Like we talked about last generation, like the whole kind of kumbaya thing about, hey, when everybody plays, we all win. Like the whole they had this as an Xbox thing. You know what I mean? I'm all for it. Like I truly actually believe in that stuff, but it doesn't sell. You know what I mean? You're not attracting people. You're attracting more gamers by having awesome shit and being the place to be, right? And that's kind of what we talked about when she took over. Is some of my things were like, you gotta somehow turn the narrative around. You gotta flip the mindset to where you gotta be the shit. You gotta be the thing that people are talking about. You gotta be that. You gotta have that it factor. You know what I mean? And games like that as cool as they are for some people, they ain't driving the masses to you. They ain't flipping that switch in people's heads that's getting talked about, you know what I mean, and making people like want to go dive in and have to feel like they got to be there. Games like Fallout do that. Games like Halo do that. Games like Gears do that. Games like um Elder Scrolls do that, you know? And I think that's where she looked at it and she pretty much said it clear as day on there, is that we're the fortunate stewards of industry defining franchises that have enormous potential and player demand, but we have not adequately funded them to compete and win. And she says at the same time, as we saw this past weekend, it showcased a reliable pipeline of first and third party exclusives and new IP are critical to our success. So I don't think it's 100% all in move away from those things, but I think they're going to be a lot more choosy about what they do in those instances with those kinds of games, right? Do they see potential in a game to become something bigger? Do they see something that has a chance to be like that indie darling that goes out there and becomes a monster? You know what I mean? And I think they're going to start being a lot more careful about what they approve. And it goes along, like I said, it's like that competitive edge. And how they're going to do it is they're going to, cut ties with the studios that are making those kind of games, those art house projects and stuff, and make cuts with the other ones for cost cutting measures and all this other kind of stuff. And they're going to reallocate a lot of those resources that they have, the freed up money and investment. They're going to fix their pipeline structure, the way they develop, and they're going to try and get shit out quicker. Now, that's going to be interesting to see. And I think what they're going to do is look to the East to see how they're handling game development and getting games out so damn quick in big franchises. That goes in line with what she was saying in number 5, because I think number 4 gives us a hint of what the content plan is. Number 5 suggests how they're going to get it done. Our current platform infrastructure is not built for the battle ahead. Our systems are overly complex, spanning hundreds of dependencies, which hinders our ability to move fast. We've become too reliant on vendors to operate our systems and must become more self-reliant as an engineering culture to build for the future. Now, this is platform specific, but I do think some of this might have to do with just pure game development, because they've been outsourcing a lot of their engines and stuff, and they've been having to, rely on different teams and contractors and all these different things that hinder the speed at which you can move. The thing about the East is they're working on their own engines. RGG's working on their own stuff. Capcom's working on their own stuff. There's no wonder they're able to crank out Resident Evil games every 3 years, right? It's no wonder that RGG has like a new game every damn year, it seems like, or more than one sometimes, right? They are efficient. They understand their tech, and they have the teams in place to write, develop, create all of this and tell the next story. I think Asha's been looking, and as she's studying the industry, Fuzzy, over her first 100 days, she's seen this and be like, we need to fix Western game development and the culture here at Microsoft, and we gotta figure out how to be more like these teams that are streamlined, efficient, and pumping out content in big franchises. So I do have one fear, Fuzz. I think there's going to be a little bit of a mandate with this. Um, that we can't be taking 7 years to develop games anymore, guys. And you got to change how you're doing shit to make it work, to make this work, to make it work for Xbox. And I think some of the studios, let's just be real, aren't really going to jive with that. And, I look at Bethesda specifically with that, I look at Todd Howard with that. Now, you got to let him cook, right? But how will he feel if, Xbox comes in, or, Asha says, Todd, look, we got it. We need more Fallout games. We need more Elder Scrolls games, right? I know you want to make the next big one, right? It's your babies. But we can't be waiting fucking 10 years for sequels to games. 10 years plus, right? How are we going to fix this? And that's going to be an interesting conversation. I don't know what the result is. And, it could be, Obsidian is going to make one game while you're making the other one. But even so, that's still one studio. So do you have Obsidian and Exile both make Fallout games? Like it's like this is kind of where I think things might be headed. Now for us, we may be looking at a future where it's like, awesome, we have a lot more Fallout to look forward to, and you might get gems like New Vegas. You know what I mean? So for a gamer and fans of these franchises, I think it's something to potentially look forward to. But I do wonder how these conversations are going to go down internally with some of these studios about you got to change the way you make games, right? Because you don't want to mess with that. That's their craft. Like you can't go in there and say don't use the creation engine. I mean that's what they should want is them to use it. But it's like how can you use the creation engine and make it faster, Todd? How, this needs to be faster. Am I off base, Fuzz, with this?
No, but I think one of the things that's kind of bothering me is like with Ninja Theory. So Hellblade 2 took, in many people's opinion, way too long from the announcement to release.
Yeah.
They are a art house type studio, and they released an awesome looking game. It didn't get the critical acclaim that it probably should have, but that was more so the gaming media wanting a God of War game as opposed to a Hellblade game.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with all of that said, they're able to spin up Senua rather quickly. So, just like you're saying, where games can't take 7 years anymore, I think one thing that may be overlooked with Ninja Theory, and I hope they're far from being on the chopping block, but I understand if they are, they spent all this time to get the hardware and the systems in place. So they have the mocap, they have the photography, they have the art team for human expressions and the software to translate that fast and the action stuff. And that's how Senua can also be released within a couple of years of, Hellblade 2. Maybe they just stay with that engine and just keep telling stories of Senua or other characters within that universe and release a game every 3 years. Because at that point, you might want to keep them, even though they're not, selling gangbusters, but it is a multi-plat game. It is going on PlayStation. It is, going to be on, in Game Pass day and date. You might want to keep them because they'll be able to churn out content after all that structural stuff that they did a lot faster. But that's a wait and see kind of thing. And it almost feels like they're not even going to get the chance to show that they're capable of doing that. Now you have a team like Compulsion, which I remember hearing from the inside that they had to redo or restart that project a couple of times from the time it was originally announced. I think they were going for different looks, whether it's more of an actual claymation look or more of a paper, like a Mario paper look. They've gone through a couple of different art styles in making that game to, land on the one that they finally did. The drawback is the game didn't sell well, but it won a lot of awards. You want a studio like that that has a game that's winning Game of the Year and Peabody and BAFTA awards and things like that, or best audio, best scenery and things along those lines. But if it's not making money, how do you make that work? And I think they could probably take bones of South of Midnight and make another contrast game and probably spin that up within 2 to 3 years. Or maybe they use that engine and focus on something in the We Happy Few universe. Now, is that going to make money? Who knows? But I think they could reuse not the assets per se, but at least the engine and be able to spin something up pretty quick. But if that thing that they spin up pretty quick can't be a Wolfenstein or a Elder Scrolls spinoff or you know a Fallout spinoff, is it going to get any type of traction? Like, is there any way that a Halo spinoff can use that engine and those types of assets running the scenery and the platforming and stuff? Would that even make sense? Unfortunately, probably not. But once again, you had a team that spent all this time and can probably spin out something rather quickly thereafter, but it's never going to be seen. And then you look at Double Fine. Double Fine is that quirky team that does creative stuff that wins awards, that may not sell all that well, except for like their Psychonauts and their Brutal Legend. Although they're not going to be AAA blockbusters, but they are going to be like cult classic kind of things. So I think with a team like Double Fine, you kind of still want to keep them on board because they're going to come out with these quirky things that maybe one of them catches fire. Now, Kiln wasn't that, Keeper wasn't that, but I think they have the potential in them. But do you keep a studio for its potential, or do you keep a studio for what the balance sheet says today? Unfortunately, it looks like it's going to be a balance sheets based on today thing. So I think, if possible, hopefully Schaefer can find a way to go back to being independent if it winds up being that. Weird way, I wish there was someone of great wealth in the gaming space that would be like, you know what, I'm going to merge Toys with Bob or Toys for Bob, um, Compulsion, and Double Fine, and maybe even Ninja Theory, and we're just going to be a very small, quirky studio where we have maybe 300 employees across all those studios and make games that can churn out in 2 to 3 years. Don't focus on realistic graphics, except for maybe Ninja Theory, but all the other ones make interesting stories. Try to make things along the lines of like It Takes Two or the more recent game that Ferris released. But you need that type of nugget in your house type of thing as far as your platform. Like, I was thinking about it earlier today. It's like, if I was Asha, if we can't spin them off, and I really don't want to close them because I know that that's going to be a bad PR thing, and I'll probably be kicking myself when Tim Schafer creates another studio down the road. I would task everybody in that studio to create the next Xbox mascot. You um, Master Chief is always going to be one of those, but if they can come up with something like, if it's Bass Rutten from Psychonauts as the next mascot, focus on that. Make him a lovable character that Xbox fans will all over. Like basically Xbox's Astrobot without it being a robot kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
and see what they come up with. I think it's worth that attempt before shutting the door. I don't think things are as dire where the lights will cut off tomorrow if we don't kick out 7 studios. It might be that they have to kick out 3 studios before the lights will get cut off. But I think that's something that you task that studio or any of those studios if they want to work in conjunction. If Compulsion want to work with Double Fine, create the next Xbox mascot. Look at something like, Crash Bandicoot, look at Mario, look at Sonic. Make something that's for the modern day gamer that will resonate amongst current Xbox fans and potential Xbox fans. That's going to be an exclusive to the platform, and it needs to be out in 3 years. Even if it's a simple, you know, 20 level game, and you allow people to make their own levels, kind of like a Forge, or even like how Mario World does on some of its titles, where you can make your own levels and things. Do something along those lines. You don't have to copy Nintendo's playbook, play by play, but borrow a little bit, or copy a little bit, but make it your own kind of thing. But as far as like with Todd Howard, like at some point, I know he's going to want to retire. I think so it doesn't become a heated conversation. Make it so his willingness to step aside as far as being the hands-on controller, where he can focus more so on the TV show and possibly getting a spin-off show for Starfield or Elder Scrolls, possibly. Have him work with his trusted team on story stuff, so that way those people can lead the individual Fallout team, if it means they're overseeing Obsidian and In Exile, or the Starfield team, if it means taking what's left of ZeniMax Online before they did layoffs after canceling Project Blackbird. I would assume a lot of those people could stay on for something like Starfield, because there was some overlap as far as engine stuff and some of the RPG-ness as far as that was concerned. So I would say that team, whatever's left of that, plus what currently works on Starfield DLC, you are now the Starfield team. If we need to build out for Starfield 2 in 5 years, we'll do it. But in the meantime, I need to have a story team for, Obsidian and In Exile, making a Fallout 5 or some sort of Fallout spin-off. But those are tough choices. And
Yeah.
honestly, it not to throw shade at Matt Booty, but this kind of should have been one of those things where he was taking notes while visiting these studios, and knowing that, okay, every time I visit this team, and I'm not meaning to pick on Rare, but it's like, hey, is Everwild ready? We don't know what it is. you know,
Yeah.
that should have been the time. Like, all right, there's 3 creative people here that I want to keep. The rest can go out the window. These people can stay on for Sea of Thieves, creative stuff, and that's it. Like if Everwild was really that hindered, or that battered, or in development hell, Rare should have probably been shuttered prior to even Everwild being canceled, or something along those lines. Um, Also, when he was working with some of the like the Arcane. Well, he wasn't really the one that was with Arcane. The Arcane that got closed, that was Pete Hines, which
Yeah.
basically he got the boot, or he retired. I can't remember if he quit or retired, whatever. But he was like the one that should really take the blame for what was that game?
Redfall.
Redfall. So after that, it should have been all right. They kind of had all hands on deck for Starfield. After that, it should have been like, okay, they were able to get, well, Machine Games was able to get Indiana Jones out the door. And since Indiana Jones 2 was already green lit, do they continue to focus on that, or do they switch gears and go over to Wolfenstein, if there's even a Wolfenstein in the works, kind of thing? So it's,
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems like Matt Booty should have been able to take notes on which studios really need to go, and which ones probably need to be reduced or merged or let go, what have you. And I don't know if it's that he's too much of a nice guy to the studios and the creatives, which I can understand. You don't want to tell an artist that hurry up with that art. You can't tell a chef to do that with a meal. It's not like they can throw it in the microwave kind of thing. So I don't know. There's definitely going to be a mandate of some sort, and I don't know how Todd's going to take it. I don't know how a lot of the studio heads are going to take it,
And they
but
might, it's like I think they may approach certain games differently. You know what I mean? It's like,
Mhm.
hey, look, this one you can't fuck with them. You know what I mean? But like at the
Yeah,
same time, maybe they force it upon. Well, if you're gonna take this long, we got to have other people make other games. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like we just can't wait. Because these are franchises that are important to Xbox. You know, yeah, but I do also think there is like I think the whole mentality like Phil was called Mr. Nice Guy for a lot of reasons, right? Now we know like some of the leak stuff that we've seen with the emails and stuff. He wasn't as like nice behind the scenes as he was publicly, but he
hmm
earned the respect of devs because he did want to let them do their thing, right? He did want to let them, create their kind of games, all that kind of stuff. Is kind of his style. However, that I mean, you can look at it like that's great. Um, at this in the same breath, you have to look at it from a business perspective from Xbox's side and timelines, and also which projects get approved. I think was Phil was being like very like open with like, hey, yeah, let's do this. Let's do this. Like, hey, cool. We'll give you more time. We'll give you more time. I think that the whole mentality, the whole like Phil Spencer era, that nice guy thing, making the hey, we don't need to money hat third party games, we don't need to do this, we want to I think that permeated through the culture of the studios too. It's like management, head ups, culture can permeate through an entire business, right? You can go to, I've said this many times, you can go to like a fast food place that has a manager and it's spraying like shit. The manager doesn't care. He's mean to the employees. The employees, have that same mentality to the customers, all that kind of stuff. Sometimes you get a new change, new ownership, new manager in there. Hey, all of a sudden everything's running like a tight ship. You know what I mean? And the whole atmosphere is better for everybody. So like you can have this great atmosphere and great friendly environment and stuff, but maybe it's not necessarily conducive for the best business, right? What I see here is that nice guy kumbaya mentality that Phil was famous for. It's not necessarily the same thing that is the new Xbox. Um, Not saying that Asha's mean or anything like that. You know what I mean? But the vibe I get from her directness with a lot of these posts, with a lot of the way she's approaching things, and um, it's very assertive, aggressive, um, fast, right? And I think she means business. Like I think that's gonna also pour down to the culture of Xbox. And I think there's going to be a new mentality, and it's no longer that kumbaya mentality. It's more of a competitive, aggressive mentality. Is going to be permeating throughout the culture there. And I think she's going to be streamlining the business and the studios and the way they're making games that are going to be more conducive for that competitive aggressiveness, because I feel like that's what she thinks they need to succeed. And with that, unfortunately, there's going to be a lot of cuts here in the form of uh, teams or maybe in-house people with marketing and all these other kind of things as well. So in some ways, you have somebody come in that's not a gamer, but they can look at things through a unclouded lens and just be kind of a little bit more not pulled from the heartstrings over these different things, and make sometimes more difficult necessary decisions that aren't going to be for make people feel warm and fuzzy inside, but be what might be best for the brand and going forward. And ultimately, what's best for the brand hopefully permeates down to the gamers, right? Hopefully trickles down to us to where we are getting more awesome games faster from the big franchises that are like that really do set benchmarks and stuff. And I think the kind of unfortunate thing about Phil and Sarah leaving when they did is I think they were on the cusp of that, right? Because I think that, like you said, Ninja Theory started cooking again to where they had enough to where they are saying they're having another Hellblade game next year, right? We had Halo Campaign Evolve looking as glorious as it does set for this year, right? Gears E-Day is finally hitting, and it looks absolutely stunning. Forza Horizon 6 was amazing. So they have set it up to deliver a lot of those games. The question I have is like pipeline going forward. How long does it take to get the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one from the big franchises, right? We're lucky this year to have a lot of them in the same year, but that really hasn't been the case with Xbox for a long time. And I do think that's what's going to be necessary for them to like really turn things around, and I think that's what she's doing. So I think we're going to get more Elder Scrolls. I think we're going to get more Fallout. I think we're going to get more Halo. I think we're going to get more Gears. But also, Fuzz, interesting in that line. Like I said, Mr. Nice Guy Phil, Kumbaya, all that kind of stuff, right? He wasn't a big fan of money hatting games and all that kind of stuff. I think this kind of slipped by many people when they were reading this Xbox Wire post. And again, this was the thing that led us to speculate on those studios being at risk, right? Turns out we were spot on with that. And, I feel like this is kind of a point blank of the strategy where what she's looking to achieve. Did anybody notice when I had read this just a minute ago, just a few minutes ago, because me and Fuzzy are both very long-winded. At the same time as we saw this past weekend at Showcase, a reliable pipeline of first and third-party exclusives and new IP are critical to our success. So, two things we can take away: that the new IP is critical to success. That doesn't mean they're giving up on new projects, right? They're not going to give up on starting new games that they think could be hit new killer IPs and all that kind of stuff. But third-party exclusives is not something that came out of Phil's mouth. Third-party exclusives was almost like his anti-belief system. Remember when they did that with Tomb Raider, and after Tomb Raider was a third-party exclusive, right? And this was right after he had taken over, and the games media was all bashing Xbox for it and stuff, and you have Two-Face Ryan McCaffrey coming out there saying it was bad, and then later praised other games being exclusive for PlayStation. It seems like this competitive aggressiveness to fill in this pipeline as well might be a little bit more aggressive towards third parties as well. Do you think we could see Asha looking to make those deals? Or is this just like a line that she didn't put a lot of thought into? I mean, I would think there's some thought put into that. Like, I don't know. Third party exclusives. That is PlayStation's thing. that's how PlayStation has maintained their pipeline throughout their first party struggles.
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure with Matthew Ball in her, path, as well as meeting with Sean Layden and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure some of that was talked about, and her being very astute within the industry as far as watching or observing the competition. She knows that Sony money hats a lot of titles, and it seems like if you look on social media, it's to the detriment of Xbox in pretty much every single case. Like, look at Stellar Blade, look at the unwritten, backdoor handshake deal that occurred with, Black Myth Wukong and stuff. So I'm pretty sure she's going to be looking at taking some of those games off the table for PlayStation as well. Because it seems like even if it doesn't immediately mean that you're selling hardware, it is the thing to attract people to your ecosystem. And in the case of PlayStation, they've actually put some of those on PC at the same time, so it fits with Xbox's MO. If you're going to do a third party exclusive, you can still have it where that third party can make their additional monies on PC. Maybe it's in Game Pass, maybe it's not. But in any event, you wind up having that as a draw to your platform. So I've definitely noticed that, and I've been saying, I would love to see the money hat wars begin. Um, and it's not that, oh yeah, Microsoft has tons of money that they could just throw at these third parties. I get that some of them might wind up charging Xbox more for a third party deal exclusive as opposed to PlayStation because of potential, players. But I think if anything, if we've noticed these past couple of years with PlayStation is that, those 90 to 99 million consoles sold still only translates for a third party title to maybe 2 million if you're lucky. That's not a multi-plat. Um, I think Stellar Blade was like a million and change, and then the rest was on PC, if I'm not mistaken. Even some of their first party stuff like Saros isn't doing so hot just on the PlayStation. But if you look at what was the one that was by Ninja Team Ninja, I can't remember the name of that game, but it was the one that people were laughing and saying it looked like a PS4 game to some extent. And it eventually, I think it, or maybe it was Day and Date that it released on PC, but a majority of the sales were on PC. But that exclusive deal didn't. I don't think it hit the 2 million mark between PC and PS5. So I don't know. I don't. I can't imagine devs wanting to charge more. But then again, we saw how Square Enix on their PlayStation was used and abused with those money hats. I don't know if you can money hat, if Xbox can go ahead and turn around money hat them against PlayStation, but I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure there are some devs that would be like, your money spends just as good as theirs, so yeah, yeah, we'll do an exclusive deal or timed exclusive or whatever the case may be, kind of thing. And hopefully they do that without bankrupting themselves. Obviously, I don't think I know she's not the type that just wastes money kind of thing, but also don't do it in such a an amount that you forget that you have studios that can produce stuff too. But if it's meant as a supplement while these studios are cooking, then by all means, spend away. Spend, like Matt Booty said, spend them out of business.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's something to like the aggressiveness there about, and it also keeps Sony in check with doing those deals where it's like, yeah, it might cost Microsoft to do more because there's less consoles out there, but you're also doing it to invest in the platform, and you could argue that starting a brand new project from scratch at Xbox with a studio and investing the 6 7 years, however long, like we said, to take to make those games, you could argue that the investment of doing a deal to get some exclusivity, which in turn has potentially the same effect that growing the platform, would be less risk from Microsoft's perspective too, with funding different projects, even if it may cost them more than PlayStation. But also, if you are out there making deals with those companies, you are potentially keeping things from being money hatted on PlayStation as well, right? Because where as the word gets out, hey, like you're saying, like somebody makes a deal with PlayStation, well, we could see what Microsoft's offering, right, for this game, So it's interesting to see, like, and I think the whole exclusivity play is very big here. Um, 80s cartoon villain, bro. Thank you so much for the $20 super chat. You rock. 20 very generous dollars. Says Fallout New Vegas came out in 2010, about 16 years ago. We're assuming Obsidian of today could do a New Vegas 2, despite seeing both Avowed and Outer Worlds 2 financially failing. Can today's Obsidian handle the IP? Um, so my answer to that is that I don't think people are really denouncing the quality of Avowed or denouncing the quality of Outer Worlds 2. But those IPs also aren't Fallout, right? So I don't think you would see the. I mean, if it's a Fallout game, you're going to see a lot more sales than on something like Avowed or Outer Worlds in general. So they have that going for them already, right? But Obsidian's also proven to be very flexible as a studio and able to do lots of different things. I mean, this Obsidian's makes Grounded, Pentiment, Outer Worlds to Avowed. I mean, they've made CRPGs like Pillars, right? Of Eternity. There's another one that came out on PC too. That was a CRPG. I mean, they can make all different kinds of games, and it wouldn't seem like daunting for me to think that they can't dive right back into the Fallout universe and make new Fallout games. A lot of the high ups at Obsidian there that have been there from the beginning are still there as well. So I do understand the concern on that, because you could look at it, was a long time since then. But I think they're very capable of doing it, and I think they would have the tone and the direction of Fallout down and would easily be able to deliver that. And of course, I think Todd would probably have some input into it a little bit, as well as maybe some other teams at Bethesda, as it has been known that a lot of these studios are sharing things together, are talking to each other at Xbox. So I think they could do it. I have faith that it would be a success if they did that. And I wouldn't just say them. I think In Exile could as well. You have to understand the roots of Obsidian and In Exile actually go back to the history of Fallout before Bethesda. Both came from Interplay. Both of the founders of those studios came from Interplay, where Fallout was. And they worked on Fallout even before Todd did. He was a fan of their games and got ZeniMax, got Bethesda to acquire Fallout, so that way he could work on Fallout. So that both of those teams, I think, are able to do it. The question is, like, what kinds of Fallout games do they make? You know what I mean? And like, it's something that I think many of us would be interested in seeing. But the thing is, like, I don't think Obsidian would become only a Fallout studio, because they've already proven they can make multiple games at the same time. So they can still invest in their own franchise. I mean, they had Avowed and Outer Worlds 2 come out the same damn year. So I do think, a lot, maybe Asha may see what, like, Obsidian, how are you doing things, because they're able to do multiple projects and release games more frequently, right? And a lot of people painted them as potentially being at risk because Avowed or Outer Worlds 2 didn't like take off like crazy, but I think development wise, they still see them as a major asset. But I think they may refocus them on, you know, what are they building, what are they making, right? To your point earlier, Fuzzy, about Rare, Rare is kind of like the opposite. You know what I mean? Like Rare has a deep history and culture within gaming, so they're a love studio, right? You have the whole Rare replay thing, full of just shit tons of games. Um, did amazing things back on the original, original Xbox 3 and 360 and stuff. And then what happened to Rare was the Kinect. Rare was, hey, this whole new era. Hey, Rare, you're gonna make the whole avatar system, right? You're gonna do that. You're going to go and you're gonna make, the Connect Adventures game, stuff like that. It is different Connect style shit, and they were kind of put on a lot of that stuff. I think like Connect Sports, I forget exactly what all projects they were head of. Well, Connect didn't really work out, for Xbox in the long run. It was like a short term, like sensational thing kind of thing that kind of flared out because the development of games and the technology just wasn't where they wanted it to be. So, didn't catch on long term like the Wii did for a lot of people. And also the Wii craze died down a little bit too, right? So you had that whole kind of era just culminating at once. So after that, it was like, okay, what did we do with Rare? Rare did Sea of Thieves, right? It started out slow, it came on strong, amazing, right? So it became a massive hit. Sea of Thieves is crazy popular. Was at least was. I mean, it still has a dedicated player base. It's still popular, but it was a massive success. The problem is they haven't, because of the success of Sea of Thieves. I think the whole studio kind of became like a Sea of Thieves kind of like content studio, support studio, like just constantly working on Sea of Thieves, and then working on Ever Wild while they're doing that, and just there was never enough focus ever put on to like 100% just nail what their new game was going to be. And maybe they've lost the plot a little bit as to like what they're capable of and what they want to do. So I don't know what needs to happen at Rare. I know that Craig Duncan became the head of Xbox Game Studios and now he just left. But there needs to be at least like a discussion about, hey Rare, we need to get back to making games, or or turning Sea of Thieves into something bigger and reinvigorating it again. So I don't know. They have a successful games of service, but I think a lot of it's kind of died down now. I don't think it has the player base that it did.
Like they just released that Forge mode, so they have
Yeah,
it where
but
you can make your own adventures and things. So I think that will give them another year or
yeah,
two of monetization success, I think. But I I guess the big question now, considering the time it takes to make a game, what do we think about the length of a game? Like most of the RPGs that you get from Xbox or RPGs in general, they're hundreds of hours, which I think all of us can agree that we like, but after a while, it can sometimes become a slogfest as far as getting through it, depending on the story. Do we think if they shifted to a smaller initial story and did supporting DLCs, like example, Fallout 4, I think that was somewhere around 80 to 100 plus hours of content in the base game. And they released like 4 DLCs. I think at least 2 of those DLCs were like twice the size of the actual base game and the content that was involved in it. So would it make more sense to make, like, let's say, I know people will probably hate me for this, but make Fallout 5 a 20 to 40 hour game, but have guaranteed 2 to 4, installments that are going to be DLCs that will be maybe 2 years apart or a year or so apart, depending. And that will encompass the story that instead of it being, the 100-hour plus game with the DLCs, will be that. But will people start to feel cheated at that point, or is that something that we can kind of get used to, at least from first party? So that way, games are able to churn out instead of every 7 years, hopefully every 3 to 4 years, because you're not having the scope of the game is, about half the size that it would normally be, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Do you think that might be a partial solution?
Yeah, I think it just depends on the game. I mean, it's got to be something that is going to be like something that's going to drive people to the platform and want to play. Like I think they're done with like these experimental little like you know um like kilns, keepers. I know those are double fine games, but like I think maybe a platformer, fuzzy, that would kind of speak to what you're talking about, because you can have platformers that like for example, like Ubisoft has Rayman, right?
Mhm.
um like PlayStation, like it has Astrobot, like you're talking about earlier, and you had stuff like that. Like Rare's the perfect kind of studio to make games like that, and you would think they wouldn't take like 5 to 6 years to make, a project. So I think you could make a great platformer in probably 2 to 3 years, if you get the groundwork on it and stuff. But it's like, and the Rare's traditionally, like the history goes back to making those kind of games. I mean, they had a really popular one back on the original Xbox with Cameo, right?
Mhm.
Then they had another franchise that I don't know why was abandoned with Viva Pinata, because that's something that I think was kind of, it was pretty popular. They had a lot of different things like that, and I think either you make things that are going to become potentially something important to the brand, um, or you do something big. Like if you're doing smaller things, they have to still be important to the brand, and I think that's what Xbox is going to be looking at. You know, um, I don't think they should be like investing in like, hey, you need to absolutely make the next game's a service game, right? Like they may be that they may have that mentality though at Xbox right now. I don't know, you know. Some of Matthew Ball's comments on the kind of stuff that he's talking about makes me look at that as the way he thinks, and the creator, the user created content was like, like Sea of Thieves just implemented. It was
Mhm.
something he specifically mentioned is something that uh, he would like to do. So um, the question I have on Sea of Thieves, though, just in general, is that user generated content edition now there to keep the game alive while they don't have to make big new season little content for it because the users are doing it, or is it like something they're going to continue to support and um, keep developing and have more, is it a growth opportunity for them? You know what I mean? Are they looking at it like that, or are they looking at it like, hey, all right, we're moving on. Here you go, community. Have fun with this playground, right? I don't know which one it is right now, you know. Um, and time will tell on that. But I think
Mhm.
I'm just really curious, like certain studios like that have failed to deliver projects, or that have had development hell issues and all that kind of stuff. What this new mindset of leadership will be. Like I don't know if they're gonna tolerate that stuff like has been going on for the last decade, you um and maybe that's all as cutthroat as it can be. Maybe that might be for the betterment of the platform, which is also maybe for the betterment for us to get more great games. So I just think, again, like the whole competitive aggressiveness thing, I just see it running through Xbox with this new attitude, and I think that's the energy she's trying to bring. So whoever's not on board with it, I don't know if they're going to be here. You know, um,
Yeah.
I just think it's just a reality. Arturo Alejandro Trevino says, "I wonder whatever happened to Atari brand." Yeah, they make like retro stuff now. Actually, didn't they like just like revive like making games again or something for like the fifth time? Like Atari is an enigma.
Yeah.
Like the whole company's been sold to different like for the name several times, but nobody's ever done anything right with it. Um, let's see here. JMO Money says Mav on a podcast tear these last few weeks, man. There's been a lot to talk about, bro. But yeah, I have seen a lot of people showing up for the day streams and stuff that I've been doing earlier. So I'm gonna try and do more of those when I can for sure. Um, Fuzzy, did you see State of Decay 3 gameplay?
Yeah, was it like 40 minutes or so? The one guy was going through like the one looked like a power plant or like
Yeah,
a chemical plant, and he was trying to kill the nest. Yeah, it looked amazing.
yeah, it's looking good, guys. Like it, I mean, it looks like State of Decay. You know what I mean? But like it looks like crisper, cleaner, tighter. More bells and whistles. State of Decay. Uh, Bigger and better. That's what like a sequel should be. It is crazy. It's taken them this long to get to this point. But I'm liking what I'm seeing. At least like the gameplay looks really solid right now. Um, but yeah, that's the kind of stuff they can't have happen. They can't have games announced in 2020, Fuzz, that we're getting an alpha in 2026. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that shit's gotta stop. And we can't, like, I saw somebody in the chat too. We can't be having games like Perfect Dark get announced, Contraband get announced, stuff like that, and then them never come out. We can't be having that shit either. Like there's got to be, and I think that's the things that Asha's been seeing. She's been seeing for every single one of those games that didn't come out. We talk about the 3% accountability margin thing, right? How much money went into each year on development of games that never released?
I mean, a lot, especially something like Perfect Dark. I I'm pretty sure that was an expensive,
Yeah. I mean,
cancellation.
you talk about starting a studio, right? Recruiting. Very expensive talent they hired there at the initiative. I know it was a small team,
Yeah.
but they were not getting. The initiative was like made up of development all stars, right?
Yeah.
Like they were bringing in people that had very well respected names within the industry to create a quadruple A studio, the industry's first like quadruple A studio. It was like they were had high hopes for this, right? They said, hey, they get a building, all this stuff, all this cost that goes on with all that. Yeah, the superstar team of devs come in here. Daryl Gallagher, Drew Murray. Drew Murray, I think somebody said he was back at Xbox in some form or fashion now after he was at Xbox, left to go to
Yeah.
Insomniac, and now he's back somewhere. I don't know what's going on. Um, but there's a lot of talent there. Then, okay, beyond that, right? You see a picture of Phil playing it, with Drew Murray there in the offices with a smile on his face. This was like way back in like 2021, something like that. All of a sudden, Drew Murray's gone. What the hell's happening? He leaves, goes to Insomniac. He needs to be closer to family. Leaves and goes back to Insomniac. Um, Now you have the initiative. Oh, guess what? We made a deal with Crystal Dynamics. We're paying them to help on this game, right? Um, this whole thing continued for years. Perfect Dark was shown last year, right? Was it last year or the year before? I think it was last year. Uh, at Showcase, looked amazing. We're like, "Whoa, this is like crazy, too good to be true. This looks fucking sick." And then canceled. So you can't have stuff like that happen, right? How much waste goes into that? How much waste went into Everwild? How, how much waste went into Contraband funding that game with Avalanche? Um, like you're on mute, Fuzz.
Oh, too much money because I guess that's the biggest thing. Like I know I'm still harping on Project Blackbird, but it's like that's that's a game I know they probably spent 100 million plus, maybe a couple 100 million plus on, and it was about at the 80% mark, and it's like cancel, and you're never going to get any of that development money back, or any of that. It's not like you can go back and finish it, I guess, because you laid off part of that team. So I guess that was to recoup some of the money invested, but then you have a game that's pretty close to, you could probably release it as early access and it'd be fine. But it's something that I'm pretty sure they had a target of, oh, well, we spent 250 mil, 300 mil. We need this to sell 600 mil worth. And now it won't. So yeah, that's a lot of money, a lot of salaries, a lot of hours, a lot of equipment, a lot of dev time, a lot of waste, unfortunately.
Yeah. Project Blackbird, Cinemax, the acquisition of ZeniMax in general, and then shutting down a couple of those studios too afterwards.
Mm.
Um, like it's just it's like I know that all these platform holders have cancellations, right? So Sony has wasted a
Hmm.
shit ton of money too. You know, all the games of service initiative flip flopping on that, like that cost them. I don't even know how much, right? I can't even imagine. Um,
We figure Concord is close to 1 billion between the cost of the studio and cost of dev time because I think they said
mhm,
8 or 9 years of dev time, and then they paid 400 and some odd million for the studio. So 8 or 9 years of salaries plus the acquisition costs, plus whatever other funding that went into it, plus you know manufacturing the discs that didn't sell, doing the refund after you sold $1 million worth or 25,000 copies. You know the marketing and the advertising that they did. I mean, yeah, that's at least 1 billion. And then you got Bungie, where I know they spun off part of that team for that looking for group thing or LFG or whatever. I don't know if that's looking for group or let's fucking go, whichever it's supposed to be for. They spun it off, and I think they paid what 4 billion for Bungie or close to 4 billion. And then the guy, laid off a bunch of people before they were vested, so they didn't get that retention money. And now that they were devalued almost $1 billion by Sony in two increments. It was like 200 and something million and then 700 and something million, or almost 800 million
mhm.
that they devalued them. So yeah, Sony's wasted a lot of money with that games as a service move, but you would never know it by the way the gaming media is talking about them. So
Yeah, it's somebody in the chat said that oh, Shane, yeah, said I think when you cancel a project, you can write a lot of that stuff off. That's why publishers do that a lot. I watched a podcast explain. Yeah, you can like write it off as like sunk costs or whatever,
mhm.
as a loss. Um, yeah, I mean, but still, like that's affects your day to day operations. It affects your day to day, streamline of allocation of resources. You know what I mean? And even if you end up not taking as much of a loss at the end of the day, if you cancel it, the whole investment along the way on allocation of resources to something that you don't end up seeing any fruits of later is astronomical in this industry. And it's one of the main things I always keep saying is needs to change. So like you got to look at that, and I think that's something that I think Asha's gonna try and address within the Microsoft and Xbox. Other publishers got the same problems. Ubisoft is one of the worst. WB, one of the worst at this kind of stuff. PlayStation's been one of the worst this generation with this stuff. You know, I think that ultimately a lot of these studios are got to look themselves in the eye and be like, why and how did we get to this point? Um, and I think the money got so big. And I'm just being real. Like back in the original Xbox or the 360 days, there's a lot of investment, but the money was a lot smaller, right? Like the money was a lot smaller. And I think the business of gaming got so big that the investment into the development of projects, of different kinds of things, and to new tech, and to all these kind of things just kind of ballooned and inflated things into something that really wasn't conducive to making games anymore. It was conducive to like entities of investment, right? Entities of investment for shareholders of hopes for future gains, right? And a big numbers game, as opposed to the art of it got kind of lost by the sheer greed and magnitude of the amount of money that was being poured into everything. And I think that's where they got to look at it and be like, how are small teams that have had less investment making their second or third game being able to make a game like Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 that looks and kind of outshines most AAA games out there, and it go gangbusters, and we can spend 7 years trying to figure out how to make something that never ends up seeing the light of day. So you got to learn
Sometimes a
from the good
smaller
examples.
team is sometimes a smaller team is more agile. Like
Yeah.
Warhorse Studios, I gotta double check to see how many people they have, but it's like they're much smaller than like your CD Project Red and studios like that. But I think when you have a studio head that pretty much can make all the calls and shots as far as how the game goes forward, and everybody that's working there is on board, you could probably get things done a lot smoother without having, a platform head come visit and be like, hey, are we still good on these milestones for next year? And, what about the cultural stuff that we had to research? Did that all pan out? And it's like a million and one checklist things that kind of slow the production, that they have to double check. All right, do we have voice actors in every language that we agreed that we were going to have for this game? Or are we going to have all the localization done as far as the text? Oh, well, the localization for Korea, somebody forgot to notify a person to hire, somebody to do a localization for that. Oh, well, can we do that on the back end? Well, yeah, but it's going to take us 2 or 3 extra months. And, I think these smaller studios not having a platform to answer to kind of thing, I think makes it easier in that regard. But then again, they're having to do it on their own dime.
Yeah.
They're probably making those decisions to cut where they need to. And, if it means using AI for, bug testing and stuff like that, or certain other smaller tasks that, aren't replacing humans, but are helping or aiding them as far as getting the building process done, then that's probably where Xbox needs to look to. Like it'd be nice if they could, bug or spy on, studios like Warhorse or even the Expedition 33 studio, the people that made that, and try to, I wouldn't say learn from them, but at least see what's working for them now and see if they can apply those to other studios. Or, in all honesty, look at Obsidian, like you were talking about earlier, where they're able to churn out multiple projects in a short period of time. Not saying that they should teach the others how to do it, but
Yeah.
find out, is it the leadership there that makes the difference? Is it the talent there that's making the difference? Or do they have systems in place that just makes everything smoother, where it's not like a hiccup where you have to wait for this supervisor or this, lead or this head of the studio to check or verify before the next person can move to the next project or next phase and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's be interesting seeing all these changes unfold here. I think when we look at it, like, I make a big deal about the whole polar opposite of like the mentality of the kumbaya versus competitive aggressiveness, but like I think that within that there's a lot of subtlety that kind of has a that has a big impact, but it's like only through small adjustments, or certain adjustments, right? Like, whereas, okay, we're no longer going to be doing these games from these kind of studios, right? Okay, we're going to focus on some of the bigger games. Okay, we're going to be uh, focusing more on in-house tech and less outsourcing things. We're going to try and get our pipeline strategy go for development stronger. We're going to be doing third-party stuff. We're going to be doing all these things, and each one you can look at as like, okay, that's like a simple decision, of business, but altogether it paints a bigger picture of just a whole different philosophy. I think from the Phil and Sarah era going into the Asha era now, and I think she is that fixer that's coming in here to try and restore the strength and competitiveness of the platform. Whereas Phil was like all about the games, I think Asha sees the games as a means to an end for the platform, right? Which was kind of like the old school mentality, a little bit more about games business from the platform holders, right? The reason that all these exclusive games are invented in the first place was to be able to sell the machines, right? And now, it's a digital age. We're still trying to drive people to the storefronts, you know, grow the users in the storefronts. So I just see a different focus here. And I think that's what the new Xbox is. I think it's going to be a lot more focused on the bigger IPs, trying to get the big franchises out quicker, and try and have hardware still be a strong part of it. So, a lot of people are like just saying it's impossible for them to achieve this and stuff. I think it comes from the strength and from the leadership and what they're able to accomplish. Only time will tell. And I'm looking forward to watching it happen, guys. It's not all going to be sunshine and rainbows on the way there. That's for damn sure. What's up, Pat Man? How's it going? What's up, Brett Bingham? Hope you're doing well. Fuzzy, how much do you think GTA 6 is going to cost?
I posted something earlier today. I think it'll be $69.99 for the base game, no online. I think there will be online sold separately for $14.99 or something like that. Or you could buy the complete edition for $79.99, which will have the online with the base game. I think it winds up being something along the lines of the online might be 2 to 3 months behind. I still think that gets delayed because to have something ready while people are still playing GTA 5 online and then have GTA 6 online, I think we're going to want to slowly migrate people over. So I think that might not be ready at launch, or if it's ready at launch, it's probably not going to go over too well. But outside of that, there'll be like a $100 edition, which will probably have the base game online as well as some legacy GTA copies. Like either previous weapons or um, something along the lines of like some of the clothing items, or maybe a car or two, or maybe you get a house, a car, and some clothing for the online part with that. And then I think they're going to have a collector's edition, which I was a knucklehead and bought the PS3 collector's edition back when GTA 5 first came out. And I think that was $200 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
It came with a hat. Not a great hat, but it was like one of those flat brim hats kind of thing. And it came with like a money bag, like a bank money bag with the zipper and the lock and everything. It came with the game with a lot of extra DLC content or like cosmetics, like a couple of cars, a couple of houses to start. It was basically like getting a shark card with the game before they even had the shark cards. But I could see them doing something along those lines. So a $70 edition, $80 edition, $100 edition, and a $300 collector's edition where who knows what they include. I could, if they want to be funny, it'll be like the tank top of the guy and the yoga pants of the girl. That's what they'll have
Right.
included in the kit for $300.
Yeah. It'd be crazy, bro. I think I've been like back and forth on this. There was like a thing going around where like the CD keys or loaded, whatever it's called now, had like a price there for like 122 something. Um, I think it's like a placeholder. I don't know. Like, I mean, I don't know. Can you even buy the key through them right now? I mean, it's just sitting there on the site. I think it's just getting ready because they announced that the pre-orders are going to go up on the 25th. So I do think that they are going to potentially have like we speculated on this before about the online stuff, Fuzzy. I think you may be on the money there. I'm going to try and say that they're going to have the online plus regular game at $100.
Mm.
And then I think they're going to try and sell. I don't. One thing is like, will GTA Online launch with GTA 6? Because like it didn't launch with GTA 5 when it first came out. You know, and then the whole heist mode they promoted for it came out like a year after they promised it. You know, so my mind's all over the place on this, but I think they're gonna. My prediction is they're gonna try and get $100 from everybody, but that doesn't mean that there's not like a standard edition that's $70. But I think there's whatever it is. I think that the $100 is going to be kind of the de facto choice, if that makes sense. I just don't know what it is. If it's going to be online or if it's going to be like something that's like obviously everybody's going to need or want, you know. And then I think there's going to be like $150 version. It's going to have like a shark bucks and shark cards and stuff. And
Mm.
I think that, and I hate to say this, I think they look at NBA 2K and how they do their whole create a character thing in my player and have your like 85 overall starter guy by
Mhm.
basically buying the $100 version. Like some of that could go in the mentality of the way they do GTA Online. You know what I mean?
Can't shoot straight because I didn't buy the upgraded pack.
Yeah, like it, like because NBA is like very pay to win on the my court and shit.
Mhm.
And like I wouldn't surprise me. Um, Did I see this one earlier from Mac22TH54? If I missed it, I'm sorry, bro. $2 super chat says Phil's been catching a lot of arrows lately. I'm not throwing shade at Phil for being the kumbaya mentality. Like I said, I believe in a lot of the same stuff that he does. I just don't necessarily know if that's the same mentality that Asha has. And maybe the last couple of years wasn't the best for business. But I do like a lot of what he said. Like in the perfect world, I think all these companies would operate in the way that Phil Spencer had envisioned. I think he's a good guy. I think he did things from the heart. I think he cared about the people. I think he cared about the studios. I think he cared about the games. I think he cared about the industry. You know, um, but at the same time, like Xbox as a platform needs to be have a little bit of that competitive edge brought back. So it's kind of like I'm a Cowboys fan, guys. I'm gonna put it to you like this, okay? And some of you might be my age or older. It's kind of like going from Tom Landry to Jimmy Johnson. Like well respected, everybody loves, like he's class act, just to the point, very direct. Whole city loves him, you know. It's gone. Somebody comes in is like, we're gonna go through a rough spot, but I'm changing and we're gonna start winning again, you know. And that's what Jimmy Johnson did in the '90s. And then he got then he didn't get along with the boss. So let's hope Asha and Satya can keep it together if they start having success. A cowboy, yeah, Donnie, you got a problem with that, bro? You got a problem with that, bro? Cowboys fan? You got a problem, bro? I'm also a Mavericks fan. Yeah, we traded away a Finals MVP and a person that was in the finals the previous year and has been a MVP candidate in his entire time in the league. We got rid of both of those guys that we drafted in the same year. I'm a Mavericks fan still. We traded away Luka Doncic and we let Jalen Brunson go in free agency for nothing. Yeah, we're fucking smart as hell, aren't we, in Mavericks land? But I'm still a Mavericks fan. I'm still here, right? Um, Still a Cowboys fan after 30 years of failure. Thanks for reminding me. We'll get there again. We need another Jimmy Johnson. That's what we need. We need another fixer. Shane G with a $2 super chat ask Fuzzy, are you hyped for Hellraiser game? Looks great.
Oh yeah. Actually, even the wife is excited to play that one. We're probably going to see about doing a stream on Friday night with Ferocious Fee of us playing that. So be on the lookout for that. But yeah, it's I got to check to see its exact release date because I know it's been kind of like in I wouldn't say development hell. It's just they've I think pushed back the date a couple of times, but yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, I've seen it a couple times. It looks pretty cool. Mac22TH54 with the $2 says, Take Two stock price. Excuse me. Take Two stock price went parabolic today. Yeah, bro. Like that game is gonna be insane. What it does for the industry. The influx, like. I predict GTA is going to hit. This is kind of silly because everybody knows this is going to happen. It's going to sell like crazy. But people are going to see GTA get all these sales. You're going to have an increase in hardware sales from everybody, all this stuff. And then all of a sudden you're going to see some like, people like, oh, look at this industry. Like people that just watch the numbers. Oh, I'm going to start diving in, and without realizing this is like a unicorn. You know what I mean? And they'll have it people like, hey, that's a unicorn situation, man. Like, no, like, look, I see the growth potential. I see, you're gonna have like, I think GTA will cause a little bit of like reinflux of investing into gaming just because of the uptick that it causes in the space. Like the financials Maybe not on everybody else's games that come out that month, right? But the financials that come out for like the quarters and stuff like that are tracking like hardware sales, that are tracking like, platform engagement, that are, tracking, all that, is everybody's gonna be like, holy shit, like this is amazing, this is great. Hey, we're celebrating this. You get a GTA game once every 2 generations at this point, so it's not like it's actually gonna do that much, but in the long run, besides for them. But yeah, I think they'll see like, oh, look what's possible in gaming, and be duped into investing and into the next GTA again. And because of that, you'll probably start to see like Ubisoft or fucking some other stupid company be like, we're gonna make a GTA clone. Like, we're finally
was
gonna do
Watch
it.
Dogs.
Yeah, they're gonna bring back Watch Dogs, but bigger way, right? It's gonna be more streetwise. it's it's gonna be in Miami.
Yeah.
Um, they'll bring back Sleeping Dogs. Somebody will bring back Sleeping Dogs. Like there's gonna be some people out there. Yeah, well, like what was the game out there like Mind's Eye? It was like trying to be kind of like that a little bit and stuff.
It was trying, but the I guess you could say the studio head for Rockstar when GTA 5 came out was the one that spun off and made that studio. And it's like, I think he probably should have just either got more investors to invest more money or spent more time, working out some of the bugs and stuff. Like I think they patched it a couple of times, so it's a good bit better, but it didn't live up to the hype that they were hoping as far as being a competitor for GTA kind of thing.
Yeah.
I know some people have enjoyed it, but the numbers it didn't sell as well. But then again, that could have been the gaming media not being as nice or as patient as they would for like an EA game or something like that.
Yeah. Man. It's gonna be interesting to watch what happens this year after GTA comes out. That's for damn sure. Just like overall the gamers' reaction, how many people are playing it, all that kind of stuff. I can't believe they ain't launching that shit on PC. That's just insane to me. I know they don't need to. You know what I mean? Not insane for that reason. They're gonna sell shit tons of copies on Xbox and PlayStation. But like, it's just insane to me that game won't be on PC at launch. They're gonna get that double dip, man. They're gonna get it.
Yeah,
I know that. I know the chat. You guys will say it's overhyped. I understand that. You know what I mean? Like, there is a level of anticipation for this game that's never existed before with any game. Now, I'm not saying that it's necessarily justified based on what we're gonna play. I have no idea. What we're gonna play may be like, hey, this is another awesome GTA game, and it wasn't like necessarily worth all this, but it's because it's been so damn long, right? You had GTA 5 become the biggest GTA ever, GTA Online take off, so then you have, since we haven't gotten a GTA game since the 360 era, but it's still been one of the most selling games every single year.
Still on the top 10 list.
Every single year, GTA. Like, I haven't gotten Splinter Cell since back then either, right? But Splinter Cell ain't top 10 in sales every single like year. You know what I mean? Like, for it, that's insane. So the amount of people that have become GTA fans over the course of the time period between GTA 5 and today is astronomical. Now, I will say this, it's going to come with more expectations than any game on the planet, and it has a chance to, because of that, like, after it releases, have kind of like a oh, that was cool, but it has a chance to not capture people like GTA 5 did. You know what I mean? Like, people are like, okay, I played that, I'm going to go back to GTA 5. I don't know. It's going to be crazy to see. I just hope they make fucking Red Dead 3. That's what I want. And Midnight Club, bring it back. I'd rather have those games over GTA, even though I do like GTA. My wife would rather have GTA. I'm more of a Red Dead fan, and I like Midnight Club
Mm-hmm.
more than I do GTA. By the way,
I
GTA
think EA
4
killed
is
that.
better than 5, also. Nico is
I
better.
don't know. Well, Nico was a better character, yes. But I like
Nico
the
Bellic.
physics a little bit more in 5. So it's like
Oh, control wise and
after,
like game wise, yeah, like all that. I mean like story and stuff, basically.
yeah, the story. Although the date thing or the hanging out with what's his name was a bit annoying at times. It's like I'm gonna turn my phone off, so you can't call me no more.
Oh,
But
his cousin,
yeah,
yeah. Was it Rome or something like that? I can't remember his
yeah,
fucking name.
it was like you didn't even get to do a mission, and it's like, hey, we
Mm-hmm.
should go bowling. You're like, no, stop calling me.
Hey, Nico. Um. Well,
Yeah, but
everybody.
I think they need to go back to New York as well.
Yeah.
That can be GTA 7, I guess,
What in
in
the
20
fucking
years.
yeah? When was that gonna happen, Fuzzy? I mean, I'm hoping this starts a thing where they do, maybe they get back on track with making GTA games again. I don't know. Well, I hope. Um, Red Dead Redemption 2 is the best game you ever played. It's on my Roman. Thanks, Patman. It's on my top it's on my Mount Rushmore of games. Red Dead
Mhm.
2. Best story. It's best story and best written main character, like protagonist, in any game I've ever played. That's for damn sure. Controls, it needs a little bit of work with some of the controls, but the world that you're in, the graphics, the detail, all that stuff, it was just like so immersive, man. It's fucking amazing. I hate to break the bad news, everybody, but there will not be a tidbits tonight. No tidbits. Spotify and Apple Podcasts, as well as YouTube and stuff, keeps taking down old episodes of our shows for copyright stuff because of this song that's in a trailer or this visual that's in a trailer or this or that. And they're getting more aggressive with it. They're getting more aggressive. So I'm trying to figure out how we can do it. We'll figure it out with Fuzz. I'm gonna talk to him about it because Tidbits has become kind of like Fuzzy Spectacular, the Fuzzy Spectacular in a lot of ways. We'll figure it out and try and bring it in a way that's not going to either affect this podcast. So maybe something we do separately. I don't know, or um have it be like something where we're not able to show as much in some way. We'll figure it out, but
Yeah.
not tonight. We'll brainstorm. What's up, Cam? How's it going? Hope you're doing well. Um, Mac, shout out to you. Chat, everybody here. You guys rock. Thanks for being here tonight, and thanks for watching all the streams lately. And if you have been enjoying the streams, thanks for the comments, the likes, the shares, all that kind of stuff. Subs greatly helps it grow. It helps us grow. Fuzzy, tell everybody where they can find your rambles and rants, sir.
As always, love doing this podcast with you on Thursday evenings. Love talking about the industry. Despite the doom and gloom that's out there, there's plenty of games to play. And September, if I'm not mistaken, is going to be one heck of a month. Clear that backlog because it's going to be a doozy. But other than that, you can find my rambles and rants on social media. Not on there as much. Usually, I'll make a post here and there, screaming at clouds about Sony or Target now, overcharging for a digital copy. But other than that, you can always find me here on Thursday nights. And no breakfast with Boom tomorrow for those that watch that. But there will be a Xbox launch break special on Monday. And Fright Night with Ferocious Fee on Friday or tomorrow at 6 for the movie Oddity. I think it's from 2024 or 2025. Oddity is a bit of an oddity. Worth a watch. We'll discuss it tomorrow. But yeah, horror fans, there's a ton of horror games coming out too, so be on the lookout for those. But yeah, Mav, tell everybody where they can find you.
Right here doing whatever random shit I do on this channel. You never know when you're gonna see a Mavcast. You never know when you're gonna see me potentially stream a game. You just gotta hit the notification bell. Follow on Twitter, on Fun Speculation, where you might see me tweet that I'm doing it. Join the Discord. I usually post something in there too. Lots of awesome conversations going on in the Discord lately as well. So I like to see the activity in there. But yeah, guys, I appreciate it. And yeah, like I said earlier in the show too, I'll probably be doing more like daytime streams and stuff as well. You know, seems like it's like a good time for people that aren't able to come at night, be able to hang out and talk during the days. But with work, it just depends on if I'm able to do it or not. You know, so. But guys, you rock. Thank you so much. Have a good one. Xbox isn't dead. It's gonna live on. It'll be different. It'll be fucking different. But it's here. Can't wait to see what it's like. Fuzzy, have a good one. Peace out. Later.
Later.